Shabbos, everyone. Good Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom. This is for the Shabbat of the 30th of Kislev. Um, Shabbat is Rosh Chodesh. Today, this month, we have 2 days of the new moon. Rosh Chodesh is on Saturday and Sunday, on Shabbat and Sunday. So Sunday is the first day of the month of Tevet. Saturday is the 30th day of the month of Kislev. Both days are Rosh Chodesh. So this week's parasha is called Miketz. So the Torah says, this is Genesis, Bereshit chapter 42. It says, now when Yaakov saw that there was no grain in Mitrayim, Yaakov said to his sons, why are you sitting there looking at each other? He said, behold, I have heard that there is grain in Mitrayim. Go down there and buy for us from there that we may live and not die. So Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy corn or grain in Mitzrayim. But Binyamin, Joseph's brother, Yaakov did not send with his brother, so he was afraid that mischief would befall him, so he kept Benjamin, the youngest brother, home. So in that passage that Joseph's 10 brothers went down to Mitzrayim is the number of a minyan, the number 10. So I wanted to look a little bit into what is the meaning of a minyan and why is it 10 people that is understood as sort of representative of the community. It's a critical number of people for Jewish prayer and for specific Jewish rituals. So the Tanchuma, the Midrash Tanchuma on this verse says, Miyad Shema Yaakov Shahaya Shever b'Mitzrayim. As soon as Yaakov heard that there was grain in Mitzrayim, Va'amar levanav rudu shama v'shivru. You should go down there and buy grain for us. V'yerdu achei Yosef asaras. And it literally says, the brothers of Joseph went down 10. So it's like it's more than just Joseph's brother. 10 brothers went down. It's that they descended as 10. They went somehow embodying the number 10. So why 10? And the Midrash says, why did all 10 go? Because in that number resides the power to set aside retribution. So in Hebrew it says, Velama asara, why 10? Sheyesh behen koach. They have the potential, lidchot puranot, to push aside any punishments that come into the world. So with 10, you have that ability. So they continue here, because that number resides, for example, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu was about to destroy the city of Sodom, our patriarch Abraham pleaded for heavenly mercy on their behalf. So in that scene, Abraham sort of bargains with God in a way and pushes back and says, surely Hashem, if there are 50 people in that city, you, the righteous one of the universe, would not destroy the city because of the 50 righteous people there. And God says, I would not destroy for 50, and Abraham goes down to 45, and so on and so forth. Finally he gets to 10, and that's as far as God will go. If it's less than 10, then maybe I will destroy the city. He just leaves it at that. So this is the idea that there's 10 righteous people in the city. However, the number of the minyan, the 10 people that are required to say Kaddish and Baruch Hu, the repetition of the Amidah, things like that, are not actually based on verses that have to do with righteous people. In fact, in the Talmud, where they derive the idea that the number 10 is an Edah, which is a congregation, what that actually represents, a congregation. Anything less than 10 is not a congregation. They derive this on 2 verses from the Torah in which 10 people are actually a wicked congregation. So at first, there's Korach, for example. Korach rebels against Moses, and this is the scene where the earth swallows up Korach and his band for challenging the authority of Moshe and Aharon, and really trying to grasp a hold of power himself, sort of to supersede Moshe and Aharon. He is swallowed up by the earth, but there in that verse it talks about an Edah being this a group of wicked people, a congregation of wicked people, and then we connect to another place where Edah shows up. If I'm remembering right, it's from the story of the Meraglim, the Tayarim, the people who went up to scout out the land before the Israelites went into the land, and they came back and brought an evil report. There were 12 spies, or 12 tourists who were sent out, and 10 of them came back with an evil report. 2 of them brought back a positive report about the land. The 10 that brought back the evil report, they are seen as being, sinners. They've transgressed the law of not speaking poorly of the land. Do not speak poorly of the land. So they have transgressed that by bringing back an evil report of the land, and that is where we get the number for a minyan, not from the discussion about the righteous people of Sodom or many other places that we could have gotten the number 10. Instead, we base the idea of the minyan on the number of wicked people. So that is there to teach us, though, that we do not have to be righteous to pray. We do not have to be righteous to be counted in a minyan. We need to show up is what we need to do. But still, there's a deeper meaning in 10. So we're going to do a crash course very quickly, a crash course in a few ideas of why 10 and why 10 is sacred. The first is that in Genesis, in the very first chapter, the Talmud says, in Brachot, it says that the earth was created with 10 utterances. 10 utterances. These correspond to the 10 times, it's actually 9 times, but 9, we're just going to say for now it's 10 times in the first chapter of Bereshit, that it says Vayomer Adonai. So Hashem said, or Vayomer Elohim. So Vayomer Elohim, and then there's something would be created. So God spoke and something would be created. So there are actually 9 of those utterances, and then the Gemara suggests 2 other ways in which there can be a 10th utterance there. So these utterances, by the time you get to the Sefer Yetzirah, which may be our oldest text upon which our mystical tradition is based, people suggest that it goes back to the 2nd century of the Common Era. So the Sefer Yetzirah is the first place we hear talk about these 10 sfirot, these 10 emanations from God that are really the building blocks of everything. There's sort of the material energy and energetic matter that makes up everything in the universe. They also are in some sense the body of the body of God. So the 10 sfirot, the Sefer Yetzirah, map onto our 10 fingers and our 10 toes. So this cosmic number of 10 is wired into our body. Here's the important thing. The important thing of putting these two things together is that when, of course, we also have 10 commandments. That was the other one I was going to mention. So we have 10, actually not called commandments, Aseret HaDibrot is what they're called in the Hebrew, the 10 utterances. So there are 10 utterances, there are 10 emanations, there are 10 things that are said in the creation of the world. We have 10 fingers, we have 10 toes. There are 10 people who make up a minyan. So the idea is that if these 10 utterances become all things that are, all things in the universe are created of these mixtures and of these 10 emanations from God, then 10 sort of embodies everything, right? Everything is made up of these 10. So we have that mirrored in our hands and in our feet, fingers and toes, mirror the fact that all of this is made of God, and the number of people in a minyan, 10 adults, becomes a microcosm. If you have 10 people in a room, the idea is that those 10 people represent the entirety of creation, all human beings, but really the entire creation. So it's one person, representing each of the utterances, each of the commandments, each of the sfirot. I guess you could go so far as to say each person represents a different finger or a different toe. I have not actually heard anyone go there before. But this is the magic and the beauty of the number 10 when we are talking about a minyan. So it does not mean you have to be righteous. It doesn't even, in fact, the halacha is that you can be a sinner and still be counted in the minyan as long as you are a Jewish adult. Of course, the halachic material says you have to be a man. The older halachic material says you have to be a man. However, in our movement and other movements, we have made the halachic argument that all genders must be counted within the minyan. Okay, so Shabbat Shalom, everyone.